In the vast expanse of the Florida Everglades, where civilization meets primordial wilderness, some disappearances defy every attempt at rational explanation. The case files reveal patterns that challenge our understanding of reality itself. What follows is an account of events so disturbing that investigators requested the files remain sealed for decades. First, subscribe to never miss another investigation into the impossible. It was March 15, 1980, in the early hours of a humid Florida morning. The small town of Pahokee sat on the southeastern shore of Lake Okeechobee, surrounded by endless sugarcane fields and the dark waters of the Everglades. Population barely reached 6,000 souls, most making their living from agriculture or the occasional tourist heading deeper into the swamplands. Sheila White, a 23-year-old waitress at Murphy's Diner, had finished her evening shift and driven home to her small apartment on Canal Street. Her neighbors would later tell investigators that she had seemed unusually agitated that week, repeatedly mentioning strange dreams about drowning in black water. The woman had no history of mental illness or substance abuse. According to the official report filed with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, Sheila's landlord discovered her apartment door standing wide open the following morning. Her purse remained on the kitchen counter, car keys still hanging on their hook by the entrance. Her blue Honda Civic sat undisturbed in its assigned parking space. The initial investigation revealed several disturbing details that investigators struggled to explain. Sheila's bed appeared slept in, but the sheets were completely soaked with what forensic analysis confirmed to be lake water. The peculiar aspect was that Lake Okeechobee lay more than 3 miles from her apartment, with no apparent means for such a large quantity of water to reach her bedroom. Detective Raymond Torres, the lead investigator, noted in his report that the apartment showed no signs of forced entry or struggle. However, muddy footprints led from the bedroom to the open front door. The prints matched Sheila's shoe size exactly, but laboratory analysis of the mud revealed microscopic organisms typically found only in the deepest parts of the Everglades, areas virtually inaccessible to humans. The investigation took an increasingly bizarre turn when Torres interviewed Margaret Hendricks, an elderly woman who lived in the apartment directly below Sheila's. The 70-year-old widow claimed she had been awakened around 3 in the morning by what sounded like someone walking overhead. But the footsteps, she insisted, were accompanied by a continuous dripping sound, as if someone was walking while completely drenched. More troubling was Mrs. Hendricks' additional testimony. She reported hearing what she described as a second set of footsteps, much heavier than the first, moving in perfect synchronization with Sheila's lighter steps. When investigators examined the apartment again, they found only one set of muddy prints. The forensic team discovered another inexplicable detail. Water damage extended beyond the bedroom, creating a trail that led directly to the front door. But the water hadn't simply dripped or been tracked through the apartment. Instead, it had somehow seeped up through the floorboards themselves, as if the building had been submerged and the water was now draining downward through the wood. 3 days into the investigation, a local fisherman named Carlos Mendoza contacted the sheriff's department with information that would complicate the case further. The man reported seeing a woman matching Sheila's description walking along the shore of Lake Okeechobee in the early morning hours of March 16th. According to Mendoza, the woman appeared to be sleepwalking, moving with an unnaturally steady gait directly toward the water's edge. When investigators pressed Mendoza for more details, his account became increasingly unsettling. He claimed the woman had been accompanied by what he initially mistook for her shadow. However, as dawn broke and natural shadows began to shift with the sun's movement, this particular dark shape remained perfectly aligned with the woman's position, never wavering or changing angle. The fisherman watched as the woman walked directly into the lake without hesitation, continuing until the water reached her chest. At that point, according to his statement, both the woman and her shadow companion simply vanished beneath the surface. No splash, no struggle, no disturbance of the water whatsoever. Dive teams spent 4 days searching the area Mendoza had indicated. The lake bottom in that region descended to nearly 20 feet, with thick layers of silt and decomposing vegetation. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Sheila White was recovered. More puzzling, sonar equipment detected what appeared to be geometric structures on the lake floor, formations that bore no resemblance to natural rock or sediment patterns. Dr. Sarah Chen, a limnologist called in to examine the lake water samples, reported finding microscopic algae species that had been extinct in Florida waters for over 50 years. The concentration was highest in the exact area where Mendoza claimed to have witnessed the disappearance. When questioned about this impossible finding, Dr. Chen could offer no scientific explanation. The investigation grew more complex when other residents came forward with their own disturbing accounts. 5 different witnesses reported seeing a woman matching Sheila's description walking through Pahokee at various times during the week following her disappearance. Each sighting occurred near bodies of water, the town canal, drainage ditches, even standing puddles after rain. These witnesses described the same unnaturally steady walking pattern Mendoza had observed. The woman appeared to be searching for something, moving with purpose but never acknowledging the presence of other people. Most disturbing, each witness noted that she left no footprints despite walking through mud or soft earth. Detective Torres discovered that Sheila had visited the local library repeatedly in the weeks before her disappearance. Librarian Patricia Vance confirmed that the young woman had requested historical records about Lake Okeechobee, specifically information about drowning incidents. Sheila had been particularly interested in cases from the 1920s, when a hurricane had caused massive flooding in the region. The library records showed that Sheila had spent hours reading about Martha Sinclair, a woman who had drowned in Lake Okeechobee during the 1928 hurricane. Sinclair's body was never recovered, and witnesses at the time reported seeing her walking along the shoreline for weeks after the storm had passed. Local newspapers from that era described these sightings as manifestations of collective grief and trauma. What made Sheila's research particularly significant was a detail she had underlined in multiple historical documents. Several witnesses from 1928 claimed that Martha Sinclair had not been alone during her post-mortem appearances. They described a dark presence that accompanied her, something that maintained the exact shape and movement of a human shadow, but possessed its own independent existence. The parallels between the historical accounts and the current investigation could not be dismissed as coincidence. Both women had been found with their living spaces inexplicably flooded. Both had been witnessed walking toward Lake Okeechobee in the company of shadow-like entities. Both had vanished without leaving any physical trace in the water itself. Dr. Michael Reeves, a psychiatrist consulted by the Sheriff's Department, theorized that Sheila might have become obsessed with the historical drowning and experienced a psychotic break that led to suicide. However, this explanation failed to account for the physical evidence: the lake water in her apartment, the extinct algae species, the geometric structures detected on the lake floor. 6 months after Sheila's disappearance, the case took its most disturbing turn. Hurricane Allen struck the Florida coast in August, causing significant flooding throughout the Lake Okeechobee region. As the waters receded, residents reported multiple sightings of women walking through the flooded areas with the same unnaturally steady gait described in previous testimonies. Park Ranger Timothy Walsh documented 7 separate encounters during the cleanup efforts. Each involved a woman who appeared to be searching for something in the receding floodwaters. When approached, these figures would continue walking until they reached deeper water, at which point they would vanish completely. Walsh noted that each woman was accompanied by what he described as a shadow that moved independently of any light source. The ranger's most detailed encounter occurred near the exact location where Carlos Mendoza had witnessed Sheila's apparent drowning. Walsh observed a young woman matching Sheila's description standing waist-deep in the floodwater. She remained motionless for nearly 10 minutes, then turned toward shore and began walking directly toward Walsh's position. As the woman approached, Walsh noted several impossible details. Her clothing appeared completely dry, despite her emergence from the water. Her movements created no ripples or disturbance in the floodwaters around her. Most unnervingly, her shadow fell in the wrong direction, pointing toward the sun rather than away from it. When the figure reached the shoreline, Walsh attempted to communicate with her. The woman showed no response to his presence, continuing to walk past him as if he didn't exist. He followed at a distance, documenting her path through the flooded landscape. After 20 minutes, she walked directly into a drainage canal and disappeared beneath the murky water. The final official entry in Sheila White's case file came from an unexpected source. Construction workers draining a flooded subdivision discovered something that defied every natural law. At the bottom of a retention pond that had been bone dry before Hurricane Allen, they found geometric patterns carved into the concrete foundation. The patterns matched exactly the mysterious structures detected by sonar equipment in Lake Okeechobee. More disturbing was the workers' additional discovery. Pressed into the concrete around these carved patterns were dozens of handprints, all matching the size and shape of adult women's hands. Laboratory analysis confirmed that these impressions had been made while the concrete was still wet during the original construction over 15 years earlier. Yet the patterns carved around them showed clear evidence of recent creation. What do you think really happened to the women who walked into those dark waters, and why do the geometric patterns keep appearing in places they shouldn't exist? Subscribe to uncover more cases where the impossible becomes terrifyingly real.